Hello everyone! The 30th episode got released yesterday, and although we've already seen so many epic episodes in the series, this one somehow managed to exceed all my previous expectations. Because what I saw in this episode was one of the most awesome battle scenes ever, where Plungerman showed himself like a real Chad who is just unstoppable. But also in addition to that, there was also some shocking twist in the end that was described by MonsterUp personally in detail, and I'll analyze all the information I know about it for you guys. So I am going to break the whole episode down for you, and if you're really ready, then put all your business aside for the next 11 minutes, and trust me. How has Plungerman got to be so powerful that he managed to defeat two zombie titans at the same time? Who the Plague Doctor really is, and who was hiding behind the mask all this time? And most importantly, what's going to happen to POV Plungerman, and will the Alliance reach the Purple Core after all? So if you want to know the answers to all these questions, then get your tea and snacks ready and prepare to watch this video to the end, because it's going to be fire. Let's go! But before I'll start digging into episode 30, let me remind you real quick about the events of the previous episode so you won't get too confused about what has actually been going on. So in episode 29 of the Skibidi zombie series, the POV Plungerman teams up with a speakerman, and then the POV and speakerman face the infected Black Mamba drillman, who sends the black fog to them and catches both of them into a hallucinatory world, as there was no way to dodge this fog in such a tight place. The POV encounters multiple terrible foes in this world of illusions, such as a monstrous creature resembling a vampire from the game Redfall, and later a giant spider, and both of them are manifestations of the infected drillman's powers. Despite the terrifying illusions, the POV manages to fight back, and then he encounters Drillman himself. Well, at least that's what he thinks. He finds a knife and eventually stabs his opponent, who he believes to be Drillman, only to realize it was actually his new buddy Speakerman, which was likely under the same illusions. And this tragic mistake appears to be orchestrated by the Plague Doctor in the first place, in order to prevent the Speakerman's race from potentially allying with the Skibidi toilets and the Alliance. So the destruction of this Speakerman fails the chance of such a union. Then the POV recovers a flash drive with crucial information that started this whole chase, but faces another attack from the Black Mamba Drillman, which is getting interrupted by a massive shake caused by Red Titan Drillman, who was following the train all this time, as we realized from the most recent secret scene. In the ensuing chaos, the POV uses an emergency hammer to injure Drillman, which leads to his demise by the Titan's drills. Well, at least that's what I thought while analyzing the episode, because when I rewatched this scene, I realized there was actually a chance for him to escape. And the POV is then getting rescued by the plane, reminiscent of the earlier episodes of Skibidi zombie series. And then we finally see the content of the blue flash drive. The Purple Core's coordinates are revealed to us, as well as the codename Atlantis for the next point of destination, which sets the stage for the next episode. Okay, so now when your memory is refreshed and you're all set and ready, episode 30 is already on your screens. And it starts with the scene where the POV Plungerman got rescued on the old-school plane from the hugs of Red Titan Drillman and successfully learnt the coordinates and the code name of the Purple Core, which is able to cure zombie virus. And in that moment, we can see a poster with the reference to a Skibidi YouTuber. But then suddenly something goes wrong, and the robotic voice of the ship says, "Detecting," meaning the possible threat. But unfortunately, the stage of detective is long gone already, because when the POV opens the shuttle door and looks outside, he sees a horrifying picture. Another ship was stuck with the thick chain of zombies that were not letting it go, and it looked quite silly in concept, but in reality it worked terrifyingly well. And also on the ground near the chain of zombies, we can see some kind of group of other zombies near the bonfire. Or maybe they are casting some sort of spell in order to make this whole chain of zombies to happen and be able to hold the ship. But the whole scene looked pretty strange to me, so I guess that there is another possibility that can explain it. Maybe it was just a rendering mistake, and that's why some stone spike the ship crushed into. Looks like it has hole, and that's why I thought it was rather made of zombies' body. But honestly, I like my initial guess much better because it seems so much cooler to me. And then we see another huge swarm of zombies rushing to aid their awful comrades as if there weren't enough already. And then the ship that was kept hostage by all these freaks gets rotated in the POV's ship direction, and after a few seconds a huge collision happens. The POV seems to fall out of the ship but also somehow stay alive, and probably it happens due to his exosuit that he's still wearing, which protects him from additional physical harm. And then the camera somehow changes its angle so we can see PLUNGERMAN not as our POV anymore, but as the third-person character this time. And as the episode will go on, you'll understand that it was made for a stylistic reason. PLUNGERMAN looks around and finds himself completely surrounded by the crowd of zombies which seem to be happy to arrive for this special meal. But they didn't consider one thing, though, and it's the fact that it's not some kind of ordinary cameraman which is in front of them, but a PLUNGERMAN Chad who is also pretty angry right now. PLUNGERMAN takes a special melee posture, and when the first couple of freaks gets ready to strike him down, he simply pushes his fists forward and starts turning all the zombies around him into potato mash. And to tell you honestly, this whole action scene reminded me of a bunch of video games at the same time, such as Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and other fighting games where your character can do multiple crazy and brutal combos. And by the way, I'm not sure whether this zombie's skull was already split open before he was thrown at the rock by PLUNGERMAN with a huge force. But I wouldn't really get surprised if this injury happened after this event. And to make this whole fighting sequence even cooler, MonsterUp decided to split the main screen into 3 different screens, showing the same process of punching a zombie from multiple angles, which is, of course, a classic style of different comic books or manga pieces. It looks like MonsterUp really went all into this action coolness in today's episode, and this is not even the end of it. So, after dealing with multiple regular zombies, PLUNGERMAN uses his jetpack and flies upwards to check out the whole location in order to find out what he should do next. Because let's not forget that he still contains the precious blue flash drive with the information that can simply turn tides in this whole confrontation, not only with Speakerman, but with the Plague Doctor and zombie virus as a whole. And PLUNGERMAN is still the only person who's aware of the coordinates of Atlantis, or the purple core which is able to cure zombie virus. And that's why it's so important for him to stay alive after all of these miseries no matter what, because otherwise the Alliance will be at risk of losing it all. But unfortunately, the PLUNGERMAN's trials are not finished yet, because after the swarm of regular zombies, he gets another terrible obstacle in the form of the infected Titan speakerman himself. We haven't seen him in a while, and honestly, he still looks just as horrible as when he showed up on the screen the last time. And he's not the last huge foe that PLUNGERMAN will have to deal with, because just a second afterwards, no other than the infected Titan drillman also shows up to the party. And it seems to me that all of this happens due to the will of the Plague Doctor himself, who already gathered his own disgusting collection of the infected Titans, and he only wants one thing from them, so that they'll help him to get the flash drive with the coordinates of the purple core and destroy it, and everyone who's trying to reach the core besides him for good. So that's why those 2 Titans were sent after PLUNGERMAN, as it seems to be their special mission focused around the purple core. But what about other cores, though? And that's where the infected Titan TVman comes into play. And as you remember from the first secret scene of Season 9 episodes, the Plague Doctor decided to make the infected Titan TVman even stronger, and send him on his own special mission as well. So the TV Man's goal is to destroy the Speakerman's base, and Titan Siren in particular, who is the wearer of Genesis Core, into his body. That's why the 3rd infected Titan didn't show up for PLUNGERMAN as well, which would make the whole survival process for our Chad simply impossible. But 2 infected Titans are a terrible threat for anyone as well, especially for a regular cameraman who's playing solo this time. But PLUNGERMAN seems to be in a real battle rage mode today, because after he checks out the whole miserable situation he's in, he decided not to step back at all, but to fight for his dear life. PLUNGERMAN takes out 2 of his plungers with one sick move and then goes into vortex mode, accompanied by the power of his jetpack. That reminded me a lot of some anime-like fights where the characters are also capable of doing some impossible but sick-looking crap like that. And while he's in the air, he also manages to stick his explosive plungers all over the Titan Speakerman's body. And right now it looks like a scene from the game called Shadow of the Colossus to me, where the tiny guy also fought some gigantic foes using his dexterity and agility skills. So while one Titan is stunned with all these explosives, PLUNGERMAN already moves to the next one, who's already conveniently opened his mouth in the roar of rage, and our Chad sends another plunger right into his maw. That causes another huge explosion that stuns Titan Drillman for a couple of seconds, and that's exactly what PLUNGERMAN needs right now to put both of his opponents down. He changes his position so that he'd be placed right in front of Titan Drillman's core, and shows a pretty inappropriate gesture to Titan Speakerman. Of course, the red guy gets really angry at such insolence and tries to hit Plungerman with his right hand, but of course the little guy dodges this attack just in time, and instead, the Titan speakerman's hand gets trapped into Titan drillman's meat grinder core, turning the flesh of his right arm into a mince. The infected Titan speakerman screams of pain and anger, and during this moment, Titan drillman, who somehow stays cold-blooded, throws Plungerman away with his hand while slamming him into a wall. Plungerman still gets up on his feet with effort in order to continue the fight, but then he notices how someone summons him via the device in his hand. So before even Plungerman has some time to realize what's going on, he already gets spirited away in the vortex of backfog. When he falls out of the portal, Plungerman finds himself in the laboratory of the Plague Doctor, and the whole sequence continues to be played from the third-person view, by the way. He quickly glazes around, and then he does something really smart fast. He hides the original blue flash drive in his sleeve, and instead he replaces it with another gray flash drive. And he does it just in time, because literally seconds after that, the Plague Doctor rushes towards him from the side and pins him against the wall while holding him by the neck. He quickly grabs the fake flash drive out of Plungerman's hands and breaks it apart. Too bad that the freak doesn't know he was fooled like a little baby, though. In response to that, Plungerman hits the Plague Doctor with his freed hand right into the face and managed to take the freak's crow mask off. And then we got some really crazy reveal. Under the mask, we see a deformed face of the human guy, which looks really similar to Ruvik's face from the game called The Evil Within. And it also seems like one part of his face is still covered by the camera, which makes him partly a cameraman while still being a human. And MonsterUp was actually the one to reveal even more information about the true nature of the Plague Doctor, as he wrote in the description to this episode. As you noticed, under the mask of a Plague Doctor is hiding Dave from the original series Skibidi toilet, but before the mutation. In general, this is a plunger cameraman from a parallel universe which was locked in the SCP laboratory. And based on the Plungerman's body language, he realized this fact too. Then he gets thrown into a chair made for torture or interrogations, and it seems like this is exactly what's waiting our poor Chad in the future. Then we get back to the POV mode and see how Dave injects our body with some liquid that causes distortions in Plungerman's head camera, and then he passes out. But moments before that, we can see some inscription on the black background, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to decipher it. But if you guys know what this means, then be sure to write it in the comments below, because this is extremely important. So at first sight, it may seem like Plungerman just got infected with zombie virus too, but MonsterUp also wrote in the comments under this episode, "This does not mean that the Plungerman is infected or destroyed." So this scene stays with an open ending for now, and provides us with lots of ideas to speculate about, as nothing is really clear yet. And that was all for today. And be sure to subscribe to my channel so you will not miss my new videos, and also to my Discord where you can contact me directly and get lots of info for my subscribers only. And that was me, IsoToilet. See ya!